Stage green, the stage of connection, compassion, and consciousness. Stage green emerges when the individual realizes that personal success is not enough. After climbing the mountain of stage orange, achieving goals, accumulating wealth, and optimizing life, something shifts. There's a hollowness in winning alone. A quiet ache begins to whisper. What about others? What about meaning? Green is the heart of the spiral. It's the birthplace of empathy, inclusion, and rational intelligence. At this stage, people begin to prioritize connection over conquest. They seek belonging, understanding, and shared human experience. The orange world is about the individual. Green begins to shift to the collective. It asks, how are we treating each other? Who's being left behind? What does success look like when no one is excluded? This is where social justice movements are born, where therapy becomes normalized, where spiritual exploration deepens beyond religious dogma, where vulnerability becomes strength, and where people start to question systems of power, inequality, and hierarchy. But green is not soft. It may be sensitive, but it also is fierce. Standing for fairness, equality, and truth-telling, green wants everyone to have a voice, everyone to be seen, everyone to feel like they belong. It's a beautiful, important awakening, but it also brings a new set of challenges, because in its pursuit of harmony, green often avoids conflict. In its desire for equality, it can flatten nuance, and in its yearning for belonging, it can forget the importance of truth over comfort. Let's together explore the psychology, values, and language of stage green, how it shapes culture, coaching, and social movements, the traps green can fall into and how they can evolve beyond them, and how to work with green clients and audiences as a conscious communicator. Let's begin by exploring the core values that make green, green. The core values of stage green: inclusion, authenticity, and the sacred we. Stage green is built on human connection, unlike previous stages that were driven by survival, beige, power, red, structure, blue, or success, orange. Green is driven by meaningful relationships, shared experience, and emotional depth. Here are green sacred values. Inclusion. Green believes that everyone deserves a seat at the table, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, background, or belief. It fights for marginalized voices and challenges systems that silence or exclude. In green, diversity is not just tolerated, it's celebrated. Authenticity. Masks come off in green. Vulnerability becomes a superpower. People are encouraged to share how they really feel, not just what's expected of them. The polished image of orange is replaced with a raw, human, messy truth. Empathy. Green feels deeply. It's sensitive to emotional energy, nonverbal cues, and group dynamics. It doesn't just listen to words, it listens to what's underneath them. Compassion becomes a compass. Emotional safety becomes a non-negotiable. Consensus and collaboration. Hierarchies are questioned. Group decision-making is valued. Green sees leadership as facilitation, not authority. It believes that we go further together and that wisdom emerges from the circle, not just from the top. Inner work and healing. Green turns inward. Therapy, journaling, plant medicine, meditation, breath work, all become tools for self-awareness. Growth is no longer just about performance, it's about integration, wholeness, and emotional freedom. Justice and fairness. Green doesn't just want personal peace, it wants systemic change. It critiques institutions, language, and systems that perpetuate harm. It speaks out, protests, organizes, challenges unconscious bias. It seeks to make the world more kind and more just. If it hurts one of us, it matters to all of us. These values are beautiful, but they come with some blind spots, especially when they turn inward too far or when the group begins to punish those who disagree. In this next section, we'll explore how stage green develops in the individual and why it often emerges after a crisis of meaning in orange. The evolution into green, when success stops being enough. Stage green doesn't usually appear during someone's rise. It shows up after the rise, often in the fall. Green typically emerges after someone has spent significant time in stage orange, building, achieving, and optimizing their way through life. From the outside, they may seem successful, but inside, something starts to shift. They begin to feel disillusioned by material success, disconnected from themselves or others, empty even after hitting major goals, ashamed of the systems or tactics that they've once used to win. This is the early whisper of green. There has to be more than this. What triggers the shift to green? A health crisis, burnout, chronic stress, physical illness forces a slowdown and introspection. A breakdown of a relationship, a divorce, a betrayal, or isolation reveals emotional blind spots. A crisis of conscience. Success built on manipulation, hustle, or win-at-all-cost strategies begin to feel morally bankrupt. Exposure to new ideas, therapy, travel, plant medicine, or a spiritual awakening opens up a new lens on life. Suddenly, the tools that worked in orange, domination, persuasion, image control, feel hollow. The person begins to crave something deeper, real connection, emotional truth, a sense of belonging, a feeling of contribution, work that matters. It's not about the metrics anymore, it's about the meaning. I'm tired of performing and I want to feel again. Internal markers of green's emergence. They start to cry more, often surprised by their own emotional sensitivity. They can't grind like they used to. The hustle switch is broken. They question their old values, money, image, approval. They feel drawn to healing modalities, therapy, somatics, community circles. They may start apologizing to people they hurt in orange. They become more socially conscious, often shifting political or ethical views. In short, green doesn't emerge because of failure. It emerges because the old version of success stopped working. And so begins the beautiful and often painful descent into a new way of being. Let's look at how this shows up in the language of green. The words it trusts, the phrases that trigger it, and how to communicate with someone in this stage. This is the language of stage green, how green listens, speaks, and builds trust. If orange is the language of persuasion, green is the language of permission. Green is sensitive, not just emotionally, but energetically. It tunes into tone, pacing, inclusion, and unspoken meaning. It can feel when someone is posturing or pushing an agenda. Words and phrases that land in green. Let's explore this together. I honor your truth. What are you feeling right now? There's no right answer. Your story matters. This is a safe space. I'm not here to fix you. Let's hold space for this. I hear you. These words resonate because they decentralize power. They communicate equality, curiosity, and compassion. Words that trigger green. Crush your goals. Dominate your niche. Here's the formula that works. High ticket closing. Leverage pain to sell. Just follow the system. The fastest way to scale. These phrases signal extraction, manipulation, or ego-driven leadership, and green wants nothing to do with it. It doesn't trust loud, it doesn't trust slick, it doesn't trust people who seem more focused on outcomes than honoring the process. Green communication principles. Non-hierarchical language. Green resists top-down authority. Speak with, not to. Instead of you need to, try have you considered. Process over perfection. Green values transparency over polish. Share the journey, not just the destination. Inclusive framing. Use words that welcome multiple identities, beliefs, and experiences. All parts of you are welcome here. Emotionally literate tone. Green listens for the energy behind your words. Be congruent. If you're sad, sound sad. If you're uncertain, say so. Spaciousness over urgency. Orange sells with pressure, green opens with permission. Take all the time you need. Why this matters in coaching and marketing. If you speak in orange, but your audience is in green, you'll sound manipulative, even if your intentions are good. Green doesn't just want information, it wants attunement. It wants to feel like it's being treated as a whole, complex, sovereign human being, not a prospect to be converted. In green, the relationship is the offer. Connection is the conversion. So if you want to influence green, start by listening. Mirror, reflect, validate, and most importantly, slow down. Now, how stage green shows up in society, from its institutions to its revolutions and everything in between. Let's chat a little about stage green in society, the rise of inclusion, empathy, and horizontal power. Stage green is not a fringe movement. It becomes one of the most influential and divisive forces in modern society. Where orange built corporations, competition, and consumer culture, green responds by building movements, communities, and conversation. It sees the wounds left behind by endless growth, and it wants healing. Where green shows up today. You'll find stage green heavily expressed in social justice and equality movements, holistic wellness and alternative medicine, intentional communities and co-housing, therapeutic and trauma-informed spaces, conscious entrepreneurship, plant medicine, breath work and somatic healing, progressive education and unschooling movements, diversity, equality and inclusion initiatives. Green seeks to correct the excesses of orange, its hyper-individualism, materialism, and exploitation of people and planet. Green asks, what if growth isn't always good? What if connection is the metric of success? Institutions that reflect green values, B corporations, businesses that balance profit and purpose, non-profits and NGOs focused on humanitarian or environmental missions, transformational festivals like Burning Man or Envision, alternative schools like Montessori, restorative justice programs over punitive systems. Green builds horizontally, not hierarchically. It decentralizes leadership, invites diverse voices, and values collaboration over competition. In a green world, the goal isn't to rise above others, it's to rise with others. When green clashes with other stages, green's emergence often creates cultural tension. Blue sees green as morally ambiguous or overly permissive. They're asking, where's the discipline? Where's the truth? Orange sees green as naive, unscalable, or irrational. That's not how the world works. Red sees green as weak. You're too soft. You need to fight. And green sees these older stages as harmful, heartless, or out of touch. These value clashes fuel political polarization, social media echo chambers, and workplace culture wars. But here's the truth. Green is necessary. It's the stage that brings compassion into systems, care into capitalism, and meaning into modern world. Green reshapes society by asking questions no one else wants to ask, like, who's being left out? What are we avoiding feeling? What's the cost of success? What if we all slowed down and actually listened? It doesn't always have the answers, but it dares to ask the right questions, and in doing so, it becomes a cultural force that can't be ignored. The gifts of green, what this stage brings to the spiral and the world. While orange built skyscrapers and stock markets, green built something just as essential: psychological safety. It's the first stage that doesn't measure life in terms of output, but in terms of human connection, emotional integrity, and collective well-being. Emotional intelligence. Green normalizes emotional expression. Where blue hides pain behind duty and orange behind performance, green says, feel it, name it, own it. Therapy becomes noble, vulnerability becomes strength, leaders cry on stage and are praised for it. This opens the door for healing, reconciliation, and depth in every human interaction. Empathy and inclusion. At its core, green is about understanding the other. It invites marginalized voices to the table. It doesn't want a winner, it wants wholeness. It's the first stage that doesn't just tolerate difference, it celebrates it. From gender identity to neurodiversity, green creates a world where people can be fully themselves without the fear of being rejected. This inclusiveness fosters deeper community, safer workplaces, and more connected teams. Depth over data. Orange says, where are the metrics? Green asks, what's the meaning? This flips the success conversation from scale to soul, from hustle to harmony, from more to enough. It moves teams and organizations from burnout to belonging and helps coaches shift from transactional service to transformational work. Planet conscious living. Green is the first stage deeply invested in Earth stewardship. It looks beyond short-term profit and asks, what are we doing to the planet? What legacy are we leaving? How can we live in harmony with nature? This births movements in permaculture, sustainability, slow living, and minimalism. Green doesn't just want to dominate nature, it wants to live in partnership with it. Collaboration over control. Green decentralizes power. It questions top-down leadership models and seeks consensus and shared ownership. Think councils, circles, communities, not CEOs barking orders. In coaching and leadership, this translates to co-creation rather than direction. You don't tell the client who to become. You walk beside them as they unfold. This approach creates safety, trust, and loyalty. Healing the shadow of orange. One of green's greatest gifts is it provides medicine for the wounding of the previous stage. Orange leaves behind broken families, overworked bodies, abandoned values, emotional suppression, a fragmentation of self. Green brings inner child work, shadow integration, nervous system repair, safe spaces for grief and trauma, and a language for what hurts that doesn't rely on performance or results. It is a deeply human stage, one that says, before we rush to the next thing, can we pause and tend to what's hurting? These are the quiet, powerful gifts of green. They don't show up in quarterly earnings, but they transform the hearts of the people driving the numbers. The shadows of green, when compassion collides with confusion. Every stage in the spiral brings gifts, and every stage casts shadows. Green is no different. While it introduces depth, healing, and community, it also comes with blind spots that can stall evolution, confuse leadership, and create hidden tension. Let's explore what happens when green goes too far. Paralysis by politeness. Green values everyone's voice, which sounds noble, but in practice can become a decision-making gridlock. Nobody wants to offend, nobody wants to take charge, nobody wants to be seen as dominant. So instead of clarity, you get this sort of consensus loops. The project stalls, meetings spiral, and the desire to honor everyone's truth ends up honoring no one's progress. Green forgets not all voices have equal clarity or relevance in every context. Sometimes leadership is not about including everyone. It's about having the courage to say, this is the way, follow me. Conflict avoidance. Green is conflict averse, not because it lacks passion, but because it sees disharmony as dangerous. So instead of having hard conversation, it tiptoes around the issue, uses spiritual bypassing. It's all perfect. Sugarcoats feedback, over-validates dysfunction in the name of compassion. But real growth, both personal and collective, requires friction. By avoiding conflict, green hides the medicine people actually need. Emotional overwhelm. Because green validates all emotions, it can drown in emotional processing loops. Every feeling becomes sacred. Every trigger must be explored. Every moment is an invitation to slow down and go within. But in excess, this can create environments where emotion trumps logic. Safety is prioritized over truth. Action is delayed indefinitely in favor of more integration. Green can confuse healing with helplessness. Not everything needs to be unpacked. Not every breakdown is a breakthrough, and not every tear needs a 90-minute process. Sometimes you just need to move. Postmodern confusion. Green deconstructs, that's part of its brilliance. It questions hierarchies, it challenges systems, it breaks down binaries. But without an anchor, green can slide into relativism. The belief that everything is true, everyone is right, and there is no objective reality. This leads to a loss of standards, confusion around ethics, resistance to leadership or expertise, a fear of making any value judgment. Green wants to be so inclusive that it accidentally includes falsehoods, manipulation, and mediocrity in the name of compassion. Covert hierarchies. Ironically, while green outwardly despises hierarchy, it often creates covert ones. In spiritual or healing communities, this shows up as the woke Olympics, status through trauma, my nervous system is more sensitive than yours. Social currency based on how evolved or conscious someone appears. It replaces formal power with emotional or spiritual elitism, and unlike the clean hierarchy of orange, I'm the CEO, green's power structures are hidden and therefore harder to challenge. Resistance to evolution. Perhaps green's most dangerous shadow, its attachment to being the kind one. This keeps people trapped in a loop of people-pleasing, over-validating, avoiding healthy tension, prioritizing emotions over evolution. Green often fears the next stage, yellow, because yellow reintroduces discernment, systems, complexity, truth-telling without emotional hand-holding. To evolve out of green is to risk being misunderstood, and for green, being misunderstood can feel like betrayal. Green is beautiful, it's needed, it's healing, but it can't lead alone. Without integration and structure, green collapses under its own inclusivity. It needs the clarity of orange, the structure of blue, and the discernment of yellow to fully serve its purpose. When we integrate green rather than idolize it, we become powerful, compassionate, and grounded leaders. Green in business and coaching. How empathy, collaboration, and authenticity show up in the market. Green doesn't just change how people live, it transforms how they work, build, and lead. In the world of business, stage green redefines success, reframes leadership, and reconstructs the very purpose of entrepreneurship. This is the stage where work becomes more than profit. It becomes a mission, a movement, and a vehicle for healing. Let's look at how green shows up in both organizations and coaching. Green values in business. At stage green, traditional corporate metrics like revenue and market share are no longer the sole focus. Green leaders and organizations seek purpose over profit, people over systems, sustainability over scale, community over competition. It's not that money no longer matters. It's that how money is made becomes just as important as how much is made. A green-aligned business will often prioritize team well-being and emotional safety, adopt flatter hierarchies or shared leadership models, implement conscious capitalism or triple bottom line accounting, embed diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, favor sustainable supply chains, ethical sourcing, and regenerative practices. This is business as a healing force, where success is measured not only in dollars, but in impact, integrity, and alignment. Green roles and industries. Stage green thrives in environments that require emotional intelligence, collaboration, and value-based leadership. You'll often find green expressions in roles like coaches, therapists, and healers, HR leaders and cultural specialists, diversity and inclusion officers, nonprofit and NGO directors, social entrepreneurs, and ethical brand founders. Entire industries are increasingly green-centric. Wellness and mindfulness, organic and plant-based food markets, ethical fashion, conscious parenting and education, environmental and climate activism, trauma-informed practices. These are not fringe sectors anymore. They are rapidly growing, largely because of the rise of stage green values across cultures. The green client in coaching. Coaching a green-centered client is profoundly different from earlier stages. They're not chasing external validation like orange, nor are they simply obeying the rules like blue. They want wholeness and they want it together. Green clients crave safe, non-judgmental spaces, deep emotional processing, authentic connection with their coach, collaboration over authority, purpose goals that align with their values, integration between life, work, relationships, and spirit. They're less likely to ask, how do I get more clients? And they're more likely to ask, how do I stay aligned while growing my business? They want their inner world to match their outer results. Coaching tools that work for green. To work effectively with stage green clients, coaches must hold emotional space, use trauma-informed frameworks, avoid rushed goal setting, validate emotions without overindulging them, invite inner alignment, guide reflection on values, purpose, and shadow. Ask deeper questions. For example, what part of you feels unseen in this? Use somatic and intuitive practices alongside logic. Decenter authority. Share power in the coaching relationship. Use co-creative goal setting. Avoid expert posturing. Emphasize authenticity. Model vulnerability. Help clients speak and live their truth. Use storytelling and personal narrative as transformation tools. Green doesn't want hype, it wants depth. Don't sell transformation, embody it. Challenges in coaching green. Despite their depth, green clients can become difficult to coach. They become difficult to coach when they over-process instead of act. They reject structure as too masculine or patriarchal. They view directness as unsafe. They see hierarchy or feedback as judgment. They want universal inclusion to the point of indecision. As a coach, your job isn't to bypass these, it's to lovingly challenge them. Encourage grounded action, normalize healthy structure and feedback, teach boundaries as acts of love, hold truth and compassion simultaneously. Green leaders in business. A green-centered leader is less of a commander, more of a facilitator. They lead by listening deeply, building consensus, sharing power, modeling authenticity, prioritizing values over ego. They ask questions like, how do we include more voices in this decision? What impact does this have on our team's well-being? Are we still in alignment with our mission? But remember, when green leadership avoids confrontation or struggles with tough decisions, it can unintentionally create environments that are emotionally safe but directionless. The evolution from green to yellow begins with the integration of truth-telling, systems thinking, and discernment. Green in business and coaching is deeply needed. It brings back the soul. It restores the human. It reminds us that success is hollow without meaning and strategy is sterile without heart. But green also needs direction. It must learn to make bold moves, give clear feedback, and embrace the fact that leadership isn't always democratic. When green is integrated, it creates workplaces and coaching spaces that feel like home. Not just a place to grow, but a place to be seen. How green views the other stages, the blessings, blind spots, and biases of the stage of compassion. Every stage in the spiral looks at the other colors through its own lens. Green, with its values of empathy, equality, and belonging, sees the spiral as a place of woundedness to heal and divides to bridge. But that same compassion can turn into judgment, especially towards stages that seem hierarchical, competitive, or rigid. Let's unpack how green tends to view each of these previous stages, both with admiration and criticism. How green sees beige. This is the stage we must protect. Beige is seen through a humanitarian lens. Green feels deep compassion for those still in survival mode. This is where green activism often kicks in, fighting for housing, food, security, and social services. But sometimes green can romanticize poverty or assume that staying in beige is a noble simplicity, which can unintentionally block empowerment. Green must remember compassion isn't coddling. Empathy must be partnered with action. How green sees purple. This is sacred wisdom we must preserve. Green resonates with the communal values of purple: storytelling, ritual, indigenous wisdom, and ancestral reverence. It often sees purple as a lost treasure that modern society has discarded. Many green individuals seek to reconnect with their roots, explore earth-based spirituality, or embrace non-Western healing systems. But in doing so, green can sometimes appropriate cultures it doesn't fully understand, or refuse to question harmful traditions under the guise of honoring heritage. Green must ask, am I appreciating or performing? How green sees red. This is the stage we must heal. Green is often triggered by red's aggression, ego, and dominance. It sees red as unsafe, the very energy it's trying to escape. But while it seeks to heal red, it may do so with moral superiority rather than true empathy. Green often forgets that red is also the stage of initiative, boldness, courage under fire. In its quest for peace, green may repress red's healthy assertiveness or villainize ambition altogether. Real integration means honoring red's fire without enabling its rage. How green sees blue. This is the system we must liberate people from. Green has a complicated relationship with blue. It rejects blue's rigidity, rules, and black and white thinking, especially around gender roles, religion, nationalism, or traditional authority. Green is quick to point out oppression, exclusion, and moral hypocrisy within blue institutions. And while that criticism is often valid, green can sometimes act as if all structure is harmful and forget the stability and purpose that blue gives millions. Instead of only deconstructing blue, green must learn how to honor what worked and build from there. Freedom is not freedom for all systems. It's freedom to consciously choose them. How green sees orange. This is the trauma we must transcend. Perhaps no stage receives more green critique than orange. Green sees orange as capitalistic, extractive, ego-driven, emotionally numb, spiritually disconnected. It resents the hustle and grind mentality. It criticizes toxic productivity, achievement obsession, and materialism. But here's the trap. Green sometimes throws out personal ambition entirely, avoiding money, goals, or strategy in the name of alignment. Yet orange gave us innovation, autonomy, science, abundance. Green must not only heal from orange, it must reclaim it with consciousness. How green sees yellow. This is what I want to be, but don't yet understand. Green often idolizes yellow, seeing it as wise, calm, and integrated, but it doesn't always grasp what yellow really requires. Systems thinking, deep self-responsibility, emotional and intellectual mastery, the ability to act, not just feel. To green, yellow can seem cold, cerebral, or lacking empathy because it doesn't prioritize emotional process the same way. But green forgets yellow isn't here to feel for everyone. It's here to see everyone clearly. Green wants unity, yellow brings integration. But that path is paved with truth, not just connection. The green blind spot, emotional superiority. Green has a deep need to be the good one, the inclusive one, the conscious one. But sometimes that turns into hierarchy, one where emotional awareness becomes a weapon of ego. It can sound like They're so unhealed. They're not trauma informed. They're not safe. This can create emotional elitism, where people are dismissed not because of their behavior, but because they're not fluent in Green's language. Green must learn, just because someone isn't soft doesn't mean they're not wise. And just because someone is kind doesn't mean they're not manipulating. In summary, Green sees the spiral through the eyes of the heart, and that is a gift. But that heart without clarity can blur boundaries. Empathy without discernment becomes enabling. To evolve, Green must do what it's terrified of. It must draw lines, speak truth, make hard decisions, let others be uncomfortable, because healing isn't just about being heard. It's about becoming whole, even if it hurts. Transitioning out of Green. The awakening after empathy, when harmony isn't enough. Every spiral stage eventually reaches its limits, and Green is no exception. At some point, those living deeply in stage Green begin to feel a quiet unease, not because they've failed Green's values, but because they've outgrown them. The constant emotional labor, the never-ending group processing, the fragility of consensus-based decision-making, the fear of disagreement. It begins to feel stuck, stifling, even performative. This is the moment the yellow doorway opens. What triggers the transition? Burnout from over-empathy. Green gives, holds, listens, supports until it's exhausted. The boundaryless compassion becomes emotional self-harm. Decision fatigue. Green avoids hierarchy, authority, and power over, but someone still has to make the call. Endless consensus often results in paralysis. Moral confusion. When every perspective is valid, who's right? When everything is trauma, where's the line? When no one wants to offend, how do we evolve? Collapse of false safety. Green spaces often promise safety, but cannot guarantee it. Eventually, people realize that conflict isn't dangerous. What's dangerous is avoiding it. What the transition feels like. A deep desire for clarity, not just connection. A longing to speak plainly without tiptoeing. A wariness around emotional process that never ends. A craving for structure, strategy, or even solitude. A realization that kindness isn't always honest. A subtle rebellion against a pressure to please. This shift is not a betrayal of Green, it's the maturation of it. It's when love grows a spine, when inclusion grows discernment, when harmony makes room for truth. Emotional challenges in the transition. Leaving Green is not easy. You may feel guilt for not being nice enough, fear that you're becoming cold or rigid, loneliness as your community no longer feels aligned, cognitive dissonance as old values clash with new awareness. You might say things like, I love people, but I need more depth, or I can't hold space for everyone anymore. I'm tired of conversations that go nowhere. I want to make decisions without being voted off the island. You're not broken, you're becoming integrated. The yellow pull. As Green breaks down, yellow begins whispering. It says, not every emotion needs to be processed. Not every voice needs to weigh in. Not every space can be safe, but it can be real. Not every system needs to be dismantled. Some just need refining. Your truth matters too, even if it doesn't make everyone feel good. Yellow doesn't reject Green's values. It asks a new question. What actually works for everyone involved? For coaches, leaders, and teachers, when someone is transitioning out of Green, don't rush them into yellow. Name the fatigue. Help them see that what they're feeling is natural, not failure. Introduce the idea that truth and kindness can coexist. Give them permission to disappoint others without self-abandonment. Offer frameworks that value clarity, boundaries, and strategic thinking. This is a pivotal moment. Handled well, it leads to a powerful integration. Handled poorly, it can result in collapse or regression. The core realization: you don't need everyone to feel safe. You need to feel safe in yourself. You don't need everyone to agree. You need to know why you believe what you believe. You don't need to carry every wound in the room. You need to heal your own. You don't need to prove how conscious you are. You need to act in integrity even when it's uncomfortable. This is the sacred fire between green and yellow. How to coach stage green effectively. Coaching the heart without losing the ground. To coach someone in stage green is to enter a relational field where feelings, connection, and community come first. These clients often show up with high emotional intelligence, deep self-awareness, and a hunger for transformation that benefits not just themselves, but everyone around them. But they also bring challenges. Difficulty with direct feedback, resistance to hierarchy or authority, a tendency to overprocess, fear of judgment or exclusion, paralysis in the face of conflict. Green wants coaching to feel safe, respectful, and collaborative, but if you aren't grounded as a coach, you'll get pulled into their swirl. Key coaching principles for Green. 1. Honor their values. Don't try to out-strategize or out-logic them. Speak to their heart, reflect their care, respect their desire for alignment. Say things like, I can see how deeply you care about others. What would feel both truthful and kind in this moment? 2. Normalize their depth. Green often feels too much in fast-paced, results-driven spaces. Let them know their sensitivity is a gift and can be paired with structure. Say things like, you're not too much, you're deeply attuned. Let's give that insight a container so it becomes actionable. 3. Set gentle boundaries. Green can overtalk, overprocess, or seek too much emotional reassurance. Create clear timeframes, outcomes, expectations, and topic containers. Say things like, let's hold this for 5 more minutes and then move into clarity. It's okay if we don't resolve everything now. Let's anchor one next step. 4. Reframe responsibility. Green often takes on others' emotions, systems, and traumas. Help them discern what is truly theirs to carry. Ask, what's yours to hold and what's not? Where are you leaking energy by trying to please everyone? 5. Support healthy individualization. Green fears being selfish, but personal truth is not selfish. It's essential for integrity. Say, choosing what's right for you doesn't mean you're abandoning others. Your boundaries teach others how to love you honestly. What not to do with green clients. Don't bulldoze them with logic and speed. Don't shame their emotionality. It's sacred to them. Don't frame progress as disconnection from others. Don't push them into performance-based models. Don't mistake consensus seeking for lack of clarity. They often know what they want, they're just afraid to choose it. What green clients need most? Safe space, but with clear structure. Gentle challenge, not confrontation. Respect their ideals without bypassing action. Room to feel, but also permission to decide. Reminders that boundaries are not betrayal. Clarity that service and success can coexist. If you're a coach at Green, many coaches are centered in Green themselves. If that's you, some of this may feel tender. You might overgive in sessions, avoid charging premium prices, attract clients who they drain your energy, resist strong opinions or frameworks, struggle to balance support with direction. This is your work too. You're not just here to hold space, you're here to lead transformation. To do that, you must own your authority. Get clear on your offer. Stop needing everyone to approve. Charge what reflects the depth of your work. Let go of the need to rescue, fix, or absorb. Green is a beautiful heart-centered stage, but without clarity, it becomes martyrdom. Why green still matters. The heartbeat of humanity's next step. In a world that's burning with division, speed, and surface level success, green is the breath we didn't know we were holding. It reminds us to slow down, to listen, to care again. Where orange chased success, green seeks significance. Where red demanded power, green offers presence. Where blue enforced rules, green invites dialogue. Why we need green. In a society obsessed with growth at all costs, green says people matter more than profits. In a coaching industry driven by conversions, launches, and ladders, green asks, are we helping clients or manipulating them? In politics, business, education, and media, green is often the only voice asking, but what about the impact on real human lives? The integrations we owe green. We don't evolve by rejecting green's softness. We evolve by integrating it with strength. We honor green by bringing depth into business, creating spaces where all voices are heard, coaching the inner world, not just external goals, using our influence with compassion, not just charisma, leading from truth, not ego. Green teaches us that success without soul is hollow, that connection isn't weakness, it's power, that we rise further together. If we reject green too early, when coaches or leaders bypass green, they burn out or burn others. Create success that doesn't feel good. Build movements without heart. Lead with certainty, but without empathy. Lose trust because they lack attunement. Without green, we build fast, but we don't last. If we stay in green too long, we water down our leadership, confuse listening with inaction, fear being too much for the very people who need us, avoid money, structure, and visibility, get trapped in emotional loops without transformation. Green is sacred, but it's not the summit, it's the bridge. When we integrate green fully, we become coaches who lead with warmth and wisdom, hold space for others without losing ourselves, build communities that challenge and nurture, have the courage to stand alone and the humility to walk together, use business as a force for healing, speak truth in love, listen fully, decide clearly, and act powerfully. Green reminds us that it's not about being above anyone, it's about being with them. It's not about having all the answers, it's about asking better questions. And it's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who we are. Because when we truly embody green, we don't just build better businesses, we build a better world.